Manisha, CFO at Momo. Do you remember the first time we met?
I do. You came to Crescent Mall.
No.
No, it wasn't.
No. We actually met
clay-
making clay
pottery.
pots. Yeah. It was like through some friends of friends, and we're making clay pots, and found out she was the CFO at Momo.
Nobody knew Momo at that point. But yeah, I think we were looking for a new, like to do something outside our comfort zone in Vietnam. So we tried. I wasn't very good.
Manisha, CFO at Momo, Vietnam's leading e-wallet company. You guys raised a mega round last year, but it's never enough.
It's actually enough.
Oh, it's good. Okay, see, that was one of my questions. I was preempting her. Got enough cash, growing a big business. She leads a lot of different things, including strategic finance, human resources, capital raising, investor relations. If you're looking to get acquired by somebody, maybe talk to her after. Trust me, I tried, didn't work. She's worked at a lot of big companies in media, technology, financial services, auto, India, the US, I don't even know where else. A lot of cool stuff. Yeah, let's just jump straight into it. Manisha, let's start with a little history about how you got into Momo first. I mean, it's been around 10, 15 years, however long it's been now. 15, actually.
15.
Yeah, I remember seeing some pictures online
year.
from Anziep. And from my knowledge, it's a truly Vietnamese company. It really is. And a couple thousand or so employees now, I think. And everyone is Vietnamese, to my knowledge, or back when you joined.
Yeah, we have 3 foreigners out of 2,100 people. Me, one person in HR, and one secondee from Japan.
Have you guys had to? Well, it sounds like you haven't, but is there the talent and expertise that you need to build this business in Vietnam? Because a lot of companies say otherwise, right? They need experts, but you're able to find them. Sounds like.
So I think at Momo, we are very homegrown, right? We have a lot of foreign shareholders, but all our employees, all our technology, our product, our research, everything is done here, frankly, by all people who are Vietnamese. The caveat is a lot of them have worked or lived abroad, especially at the senior level. So they have a lot of exposure, and they have a lot of skill sets that they bring in through that. I think that you have very talented engineers in Vietnam. You have, also in finance, you have deeply skilled people. In marketing, you have some good people. So you have all the skill set. The challenge that we have today at Momo is finding people who have worked with product at scale, right? So if you think about large platforms, Momo would be one of the largest platforms. So there are fewer people. So what we have to do is we do something called Momo Talent, where we hire some of the smartest kids coming out of college, and we train them. So what was fortunate for Momo is most of our senior people, Zia, Tung, our CEO, 13 years, Hong Tai, our CTO, was the first guy who coded the app. So the people that we had were able to grow with the company. So a lot of the senior management has been around for a while. So that helps, But yeah, I think sometimes to find people who worked at larger scale is a little bit of a challenge.
15 years, you've seen the whole business evolve. What was the big inflection point for Momo? Maybe it wasn't.
Yeah.
Maybe it was during when you were there, or you happened at Momo.
It was, I think, 2018-19. So I think it took Momo. We talk about registered users. So we started in 2007, though really in 2010 was the first SIM-based solution. It took us to 2016 to get to the first million users. And then from 2016 to 2021, I think we added another 30. So
30.
Another 30 million. And it's never one thing, right? In our case, it wasn't one product. It was a confluence of multiple factors. One is, actually, we raised some money so we could have money to spend to create awareness of our product. And the first years were a lot on user education. And the solutions there were more around, top up and bill pay and some cinema. And then as we started to get in 2018 and 19, we started to build a lot of digital partnerships, first with Uber, then Google Store, App Store, Facebook. So you suddenly had a lot of use cases that it was easy for people to, that maybe a lot of people couldn't reach, right? You have less than 5% credit card penetration, but a lot of people have Apple phones and they want to use the App Store. So how can you use the App Store? We integrated with Apple and you can put in your Momo phone number, right? So when you have mass use cases that solve sort of, customer pain, you see an adoption, right? But at the same time, it's a little bit the chicken and the egg, right? The first million users are really hard. And then you have some awareness, some network, people talk to each other, and that creates some uptake. We also had a few very good viral campaigns. We're coming up to the Lunar New Year, so we have a Luxy red envelope campaign. We did that for the first time, I think, in 2018, and it was a runaway success campaign, right? There was a lot of virality around it. People loved it. It really resonated with people. It created mass awareness. And so that helped. So there's a little bit of marketing, a little bit about having products that solve customer pain, having done the user education to get the first 2 million people on the platform. And then you have kind of the benefit of other operators, right? For a long time, we didn't have a lot of competition. And 2018-19, you had Grab, you had Sea, you had a lot of new companies come into the market. VNP raised a lot of capital, and they spent, many times the money Momo spent on marketing, and that created awareness. It made people feel that, digital payments is ubiquitous. People started using more credit cards, and that gives customers the trust. So in the early years, the trust was a big barrier, and I think it continues to be a big barrier. So when we think about our marketing strategy today, creating user trust and making Momo a trusted brand is one of the key priorities of the marketing message.
So how are you going to get the trust of the other 70 or 65, whatever the population?
Some of them are children.
Okay. True.
No, so I think we are working on it. A large part of the challenge for e-wallets in Vietnam is you need to have a bank account.
So there's still a lot of unbanked people.
There's a lot. I think depending on which statistic you use, I think there's 30 to 40% of people are banked. And those are the people. But the government last year had, I think very good regulation around eKYC. So now we work with certain banks and you can go to the Momo app and open a bank account. It's a Techcom Bank or Vietcetera Bank. And once you do that, then you can open your Momo account. So that helps.
Yeah, so the unbanked people, those are mostly in the provinces, the rural areas. So
more in, but I think also like in tier 2 cities, right? You go out to the Mekong Delta, you will have people who are unbanked. And you have a lot of people who are underbanked. So they have a bank account, not really used it. Or they get salary in, pull out the salary in cash, and you don't use it. So yeah.
Those 30 million registered users Momo has fixed on the tier 1 cities, more or less.
No, I think tier 1 cities and kind of the industrial areas, right? So like Dong Nai, like around Saigon, around Hanoi, and then Da Nang, and then, also some cities in the Mekong Delta have sizable pools. But yes, so Saigon is our biggest population of very active Momo users. Yeah.
Is Momo's, beyond just acquiring more users, it's about retention too. Maybe you can comment about that, because as more e-wallets come to the market, some of them have some cool incentives, features that, Momo probably has all of them as well, but no? Yes?
We don't have Grab, for example.
Oh, okay. I don't use Grab, so it's okay. What are you guys doing for retention? How do you think about that?
So I think retention is actually the North Star metric at Momo. And in retention, we think engagement leads to retention. And so there's a few steps, I think Vinny was talking about the customer journey. So we really think about the user journey. I would say more than 90% of Momo users come to Momo, or new users come organically. So we don't really have to give them much to download and use. But we give them a couple of promotions when they join. And we do that so that they can have more than one use case experience, right? So first, as an app, you need the depth of use cases. But once you have that, you need to make sure that people try more than one. And what we see is that once people use more than 3 use cases, they stay.
What are those top 3 use cases?
So the top use cases are always the mass use cases, right? The ones that apply to all of us. So the top use cases would be like top up, P2P, wallet to bank, wealth management, then app store, like Google and Apple App Store. Those would be the large use cases because they do apply to everyone. I mean, gamers are a highly profitable business for Momo, but I don't game, right? Most of us don't. Maybe in this group they all game, but a small percentage of the population games. A small percentage of the population maybe goes to the cinema. So they are smaller pools of the population.
Okay. What kind of use cases has Momo not launched yet, but has considered? But maybe you killed it because it's like, oh, nobody's actually using it. You launched it, or you thought about launching it, didn't work. Were there any that come to mind for you?
No, but I can tell you something that we have launched and we have often scaled back on. That would be within offline. So I think like about early 2019, we wanted to do a very broad offline play, and we really wanted to focus on the SMEs. And then what we realized is that there wasn't, for a use case to really be successful, you have to do a couple of things, right? One, there has to be demand latent in the population to use that use case. So, and you have to be able to push users to that merchant. And from the merchant perspective, you don't want them to think of you as a 1% cost. You want them to think of you as a creator of value. And at the SME level in 2019, that didn't really happen. But where that really happened was at the other end, on the branded retail, right? So where we shifted out our focus first and offline is on, where you solve the pain is where you can do a quick transaction, which is low ticket size, high frequency. That was the first focus. The second was where, maybe people want more information on user behavior. Maybe they want a platform to be able to reach mass users. So we focused on CVS, coffee and bubble tea, quick service restaurants, supermarkets. All of them would want to move the line faster, right? And for example, at that point, Circle K was expanding. And when they wanted to open a new store, they would stand on the corner of the street and hand out flyers because they had no other way to reach their users. But with Momo's marketing solutions, we could do an in-app display for a Circle K store. If somebody was in the area, we could specifically target them, right? We don't give any personal information, but you enable the merchant to reach users. And when you do that, they're interested. So I think, so we moved away for SME. We will focus on it now, probably through a different strategy. But that was one thing. But otherwise, I don't think we shut down use cases, but over time, you maybe invest less in a use case, yeah.
What future use cases will there be?
So this year, has been a good year for and this is relevant to this population, for our financial services business, right? We had a money market fund that did well. We have a good insurtech platform with both embedded and other solutions, but insurance tends to be small because the market is small. But we launched a credit card marketplace. We launched Pay Later, consumer loan business. What else?
Is a
and
bank
fixed
coming?
Deposit. We are not allowed to own a bank.
Okay.
We certainly don't have the money to start a bank.
Are you sure you don't have enough money?
Yeah.
It's very expensive, it sounds like. I have no idea. Let's talk about the fintech kind of raising financial venture capital environment. I'm sure there's a few startups out there looking for some advice, perhaps, about this. You guys have just come off a significant round. Of course, that's when the market was...
It was almost 1 year ago.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, shoot. Feels like a month ago. Okay, so some time ago, that was during the bull run, I guess you could say. What have you guys considered dipping back into the market? And if you have, what sentiments have there been? If not, why is that the case? Are you guys moving towards profitability now? What's the focus?
Sure. I think the important thing, right now we're in a period of a lot of macro uncertainty, not just from the equity markets, more than that. And where you are in your evolution as a stage of a business makes your access to funding very different, right? So for a company like Momo, we're not looking for 2, 3, 10, 15 million. We would look for a much bigger check, right? So from my perspective, currently, those markets are pretty closed, right? But maybe not, but it's a difficult market, right? Toss just raised. But on the other hand, on the smaller end of the spectrum, I see a lot of capital has been raised by by VC funds, they need to deploy that capital. So I think there's plenty of money available at that time. And Momo's perspective, actually, when we raised in 2021, we were not looking to raise money, which I think is the best time, actually, in retrospect, to raise money, is when you don't need it, because that's when you have more leverage. It's just that I think the market was so hot at that time, there were a lot of inquiries. And so our shareholders thought it would be a good time to maybe lock up some capital and have a treasure chest. And so we were really, honestly, nobody times it, right? So we were really lucky with the time of the fundraise. And honestly, most of that money we still have, because we didn't need money when we raised it. And so our view right now is the market for mature businesses or late growth stage businesses has definitely moved away from growth to operating profitability or path to profit, right? And so we're very much on that path. I think that for us, the cash that we have is plenty to get us to profitability and sustainability. So short of doing some big M&A, I don't know that we would go into the market anytime soon.
I was about to ask about M&A a little bit because at least according to the news I've seen in the past, not as recently, but in the past 12 months, let's say, you guys have acquired some startups.
Yeah, we've made some investments.
Yeah, investments and as well. Maybe you can share more about that strategy because like you mentioned, you can build as many use cases as possible. Sometimes it's wise to potentially acquire a partner to create those use cases, right? And may it be, media.
I think so, yeah.
Is it working?
Well, Shah is very good at making money, so we always have room for people like that.
Oh, okay. Good. You heard it from her. Let's talk about M&A strategy at Momo. You got this treasure chest, this war chest. Got to deploy the cash. You don't have to. Yeah. But maybe you can paint the picture of if you were to partner with some smaller companies, what would those companies be and what solutions would Momo be seeking to facilitate its expansion?
I mean, I think, to be honest, Momo has a less active M&A strategy. When we have invested or bought a company, it is to solve a particular pain point. We did a small acqui-hire to help build our AI and data science team. So now we have about 150 people in that team. Only 10 came in, but when you have 2-3 senior people, talent begets talent. So it helped really grow that team. Then the other acquisitions we've done are more around the POS space. And that is because in the first few years, Momo really focused on our customer was the user. In the last couple of years, we've realized that actually our customer is also the merchant, whether that's merchant financing or other merchant solutions. And to really understand your customer, you need to be closer to your customer. And the POS companies that we invested in were that. So one was very strong in online, and the other one has good exposure to F&B. And so we thought that by partnering with them, you have more data on the merchants, you have a better relationship, you can create a suite of products for that merchant that solves their pain. And you also optimize a lot on the Salesforce cost. So I think so it was very kind of...
Have they worked?
It's working, yeah.
Good.
Yeah, so, but it does take time, right? Everybody knows that. And I think the one thing that I learned about M&A is the post-integration plan is really important. Having somebody who is actively going to manage that business is very important, particularly if the business is small. If it's big, you're going to have the plan. But if it's small, then, you're in a business like Momo where, there sometimes the urgent takes precedence over the important, you can lose focus. So I think that was our learning as a company, was to make sure that you really do have a plan and you really do have someone who has to manage that business actively.
Right. Manisha, just a couple last questions about this kind of topic area. How will the fintech sector evolve in the next 5 years? I know that's a broad question, but coming from your expertise, are we going to see some consolidation happening? Are we going to be seeing more entrants to the market? Give us that snapshot from what you're seeing.
I mean,
Momo domination.
That's really
that's also an answer.
I hope so. But no, I think the answer, that is really crystal ball gazing, right? But there's a few trends. So I think what you do see is that in certain fintech is a very broad landscape. And in certain verticals of that, there are many players. And I don't think that, maybe we are a 10 e-wallet. I don't know how many e-wallets will survive, but 40 seems like a lot.
40?
Technically, there are 40 e-wallet
In Vietnam?
licenses in Vietnam. Yeah.
Are all of them being used?
No, but I think at the lower end, I don't know whether it's consolidation. As the market matures, it gets more and more expensive to acquire a new user. It gets cheaper and cheaper for the dominant brand. So if I look at our CAC last year versus this year, we're half, right? But if you're just starting, it becomes much more expensive. So I think that maybe you will see either people exiting, and people have also raised a lot of money on the promise of building something, right? So you kind of have to see them get to the end of that cycle. And I don't know how it will play out, right? You can certainly have many e-wallets because for some people, e-wallet is just a source of funds. But 30 seems like a lot. I feel like in most industries, when you start something new, you have a lot of players, and eventually you will have some consolidation. I think in fintech, as you go from vertical to vertical, when something new comes up, they will start doing it themselves. And you will have many small entrants. And then some of the larger players will start to do it as well. And there will be a competition to see which one wins. Sometimes the new entrants will win, but sometimes kind of the older entrants will, the older, more established companies will win. But I think the nice thing about the sector is that you have a lot of new players and new ideas, and it sort of really accelerates quality and performance, right? So when you have a lot of e-wallets, it's not just about spending marketing, right? You spend a lot of attention on improving the product, right? The quality of the industry as a whole continues to rise. And I think that's what I see. I see that the cashless, the industry as a whole has to grow. Right? Vinny said it, right? The competition is cash. Competition is not another e-wallet. We're also small, compared to what the market size is. So what I think is that you will have a lot of competition before there is more consolidation, but that will help elevate both the quality of products and services that users get and the willingness, I think, of users to use them. So I think that's more what I see rather than there's one winner or three winners.
Momo is a unicorn company.
Yes.
2 billion on paper, at least.
I don't know.
Hopefully more soon.
More.
How big can that go? I mean, let's talk about the TAM of this market, because Momo, the leading e-wallet company, worth 2 billion. How far could it go?
Oh my God. Like at one point, we did this analysis where we looked at Vietnam and China. And we sort of said, okay, well, this was the per capita GDP of China 12 years ago, and this was Vietnam 5 years ago. And we looked at the trajectory of growth. Even if you don't change anything, it could be like $300, $400 billion TAM, right? Now, I'm not saying who gets it, right? Whether the banks get it, the other new fintechs get it, whether the older fintechs get it. But the opportunity is huge. The TAM is the total cash spending and the loans that everyone in Vietnam takes. So who gets that is another story.
Well, after today's chat, I hope you get it.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Same question that I asked Winnie over here. This podcast, we've done quite a few. Some reason you haven't been on yet, even though I've known you for so long.
Invited.
I know. Talk to your marketing team. Geez. Who else would you like to see on the podcast or at one of these events in the future to help inform you as a CFO of Momo to help build your business? Maybe it's a case study by DBS. Winnie, got to give them a call, get them over here.
They have done a good job.
Oh, they have? Okay.
In a very different market from ours, but yes.
Okay.
So I was thinking of who maybe is the audience, and so for me, I like case studies. I'd love to hear from Winnie, but I was thinking from an audience more of people who are starting businesses, who are maybe a little bit on the earlier stages of their companies, and it's not that easy to get the regulator here. But in short of that, what sometimes we miss from all the conversations that I see is the legal perspective, right? And because you get lots of business leaders, you get lots of marketing people, you get lots of famous people. But actually, when you start a company, the legal and tax is what causes headaches, what causes you all kinds of problems. So what would be, I think, nice is also to have, somebody who works for a law firm that has helped see through companies and talk about some of the challenges and the kind of the loopholes that you have to jump through to get your ducks in a row so you can actually build the business that you want to build. I agree with her. It is something that most people who start a business don't know anything about. So that I think would be really good. I also like the idea of, getting somebody from a similar market. I'd like to learn, sort of the success of maybe a payments company in India or in Europe and see if I could learn some lessons from there. I think those would be great as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
A lady at the top of her game still needs to learn and get some help.
Always learning.
Always learning.
Almost core value.
Manisha, same question I asked Winnie. What's the hiring situation like at Momo? What teams are super high priority at the moment?
We're still hiring, but I would say compared to 6 months ago, we are much more selective. We hire for critical positions, and we definitely check the people more. We are looking for people. Product always needs people, but within growth marketing, I think financial services, those are teams that hire a lot. Product and tech always tend to have needs, but I would say more now. We are looking for people with some experience. So I think at the junior levels, we're pretty full. But with a little bit of experience, somebody who can take ownership, is creative, can run with it and find solutions. Those are the skill sets that we look for when we hire into these positions.
Always the hardest too.
It's really hard.
It's very hard. Manisha, thank you for your insights today. It's been a pleasure.